All right, we are pleased now to have in our studio the U.S. Department of VA, Hugh Turner. He's director of the VA Regional Office here in Chicago, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Previous to Department of VA National Counterterrorism Center, his education, Harvard University, Kennedy School of Government, University of California, Berkeley School of Law, University of Washington, Psychology. He is the director for the Chicago Regional Office. He provides direction and oversight in the provision of benefits and services to the estimated 800,000 veterans, service members, their families, and survivors in Illinois. And it's so good to see you again. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for inviting us over to speak with you and your audience.
Oh, absolutely. We also want to welcome Mr. Kevin Howell.
That's correct.
Yeah.
With us we have Mr. Kevin Howell, who's also a Navy career veteran.
Okay.
And he's our homeless veteran coordinator for our regional office here in Chicago.
That's great, and that's very important. Thank you also, Mr. Howell.
My pleasure to be here
Okay,
today.
great.
Thank you for having us on, sir.
Absolutely. So, talk to us. A lot going on.
If it's okay with you,
Lot-
what I'd like to do is to ensure that the audience knows who we are, where we're located, and what
Sure,
we do.
certainly.
As you mentioned earlier, our catchment area is between 700 and 800,000 veterans in the Illinois area. We're responsible for the disbursement annually of a little over $1 billion in compensation and pensions. And our physical location, we're co-located on the campus of the Jesse Brown VA Medical Center, 2122 West Taylor Street here in Chicago. Our primary function, as you know, the VA has three major operational lines of business. The largest piece is the VA Health Administration. Secondly, the Benefits Administration, which is our portion. And then Memorial Affairs, which is responsible for approximately 134 cemeteries that we have nationally as well. So we have a small sliver of the operational piece for VA, but it's an important piece. We're the ones that
Very
process
important,
the claims that people may file for service-connected injuries. And
I want to say hallelujah, but I won't.
There's some beneficiaries right here at this table.
Yeah, right.
And I'm one of them. So I really
That's
appreciate
funny.
that.
Yeah, well, I tell you, and Ernesto, feels the same. There used to be all kinds of complaints some time ago, and you folks have really, you've really cleaned.
Stepped up their game.
They sure have.
Yeah. If I can talk about that
Yeah,
a little
please.
bit, sometimes we don't do things as well as we'd like to do, especially a large organization like Veterans Affairs. People have to keep in mind we're pretty large when you look at the department. 350,000 employees from Guam through the 48 contiguous states to Puerto Rico, so it's quite a reach. In Chicago, I think we've been able to improve deliveries of services from our end in a remarkable way. When we first came on board, I've been here almost 2 years. In September of 2017, if we were looking at the major performance metrics that we're measured against, Chicago was ranked number 54, 56 in September of 2017. Fast forward 1 year, September of 2018, we were ranked number 6 out of 56. So we've made some improvements, and I'm extremely proud of the folks that I get to work with every day.
That's wonderful.
Well, I'll say that I submitted a claim a year ago or less, and I got approved in June. I submitted it less than a year, and first time, and I got it. Yeah.
And he said that on the show. I want you to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. I was shocked.
Yeah.
It was- and I didn't make a call to you or anything.
Right.
No, I didn't.
Right.
No, I
Well, you're
was.
just one of the fortunate now.
I
You know,
am,
we can
yeah.
sit here and tell you some long-term stories about how long veterans are waiting to get their VA benefits. But
Yeah.
I do appreciate you acknowledging that you're doing better.
Yeah.
Because you're not 100%,
Right.
you know, but you are doing better. There is some improvement, but there's still a long way to go.
Absolutely. The one thing that I also remind people, when we look at our workforce here in Chicago, in our operation, we're, I think approximately 60% of our workforce are veterans.
That's great.
And, you know, so I think that's a testament. Everybody takes it very personally,
Yeah.
you know, because many of us are disabled vets ourselves, and what I do remind folks is that, hey, listen, if you think about your own circumstance and situation, and now that you have a disability rating, it was because somebody like you worked the claim.
Right.
And we take it
Right.
very
It's great.
personally.
It's a
That's great.
convoluted
Yeah,
process,
that is
and,
great.
you know, it's very difficult for a lot of people to just maneuver through the system.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
you know, they have to have the claim representative, the VSO, with them.
Absolutely. And if I can underscore, I think that's extraordinarily important that veterans that are out there team with a veteran service officer from one of the veteran service organizations. We have a number of them out there, certainly American Legion, VFW, AMVETS, and others, and Wounded Warriors, now some of the younger vets.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Are
Yeah,
absolutely
don't try to do
involved
it
in this.
yourself.
Oh,
Get help,
It
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's extremely important. The other thing I want to underscore, and I think I mentioned this last time I was on the show, is that many of us know people who are still serving on active duty.
Right.
And the one thing I tell folks, both in uniform and those who have relatives on the outside who have family and loved ones still in uniform, tell them, listen, when a soldier, Marine, sailor, airman, Coast Guardsman decides to get out, we need to do everything to facilitate that. And oh, by the way, to remind them on their way out that they have in their physical possession a copy of their medical records and a copy of their personnel files, because you never know when you might need that. Because what we do is based on documentation. If there's no documentation,
Right.
there's little that we can do to help that veteran.
One thing, yeah.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we talked to Mr. Howell.
He's the
because-
most important person here at this table.
No, it's
Thank you,
just-
Mr. Kelly. And especially Mr. Turner.
No, that homeless situation. Tell us about that, because we know that it's still going. It's out there.
You're absolutely right, and it is. On any given night, unfortunately, as many as 40,000 veterans may be experiencing homelessness or struggles where they're at imminent risk of homelessness. And so it's a continuing challenge. Things have gotten better over the years. Programs and a lot more funding and priority, but it's still an increasing issue that we're working with closely on a daily basis. And that's where I have a distinct privilege and honor working for the Chicago Regional Office. Is I do full-time homeless outreach. And so in my role, I go into the streets, into the shelters, work closely with all of our VA homeless programs such as Jesse Brown and Hines and Level Up in North Chicago, and I partner and do occasional trips down to Marion and Danville. Also work with the shelters, the pantries, everything we can to really reach and find those veterans that are experiencing homelessness and struggles and challenges where for a large number of different reasons, they might never encounter us in the regional office, or they might not encounter a veteran service organization. And so it's really important, that outreach piece, that we can connect with them, because sometimes those are the veterans most critical in need of benefits of one kind or another. And so, in my role, I try to collaborate with our the homeless program reps from the VA medical centers to make sure, housing first, that we get them off the streets. It's getting, the bitter, harsh, cold winter, we already feel those effects today. And so we collaborate closely to make sure we get them off of the streets. And then in my role, I just try to keep them educated, informed. I try to assist them to get anything and everything that they're entitled to through VA. You know, we don't want to have any veteran homeless and penniless and health care treatment, you know, without any of that. And so I think that's a real important piece that we're able to do through the regional office now.
Kevin, if somebody that you know is a veteran and is out there in the street, what can the person who knows? I know somebody right now that I think could use assistance. How do we go about doing that?
You know, that's a great question, Mr. Kelly, because I don't want any veteran to ever feel like they're alone. That's the most important thing. It gets overwhelming. And so the most important thing that I would recommend that they do is to go in and reach out to one of our VA medical centers. That every one of them has a homeless program, and they through the homeless programs, they'll connect them whether they need emergency shelter that night, whether we need to get them into transitional or temporary housing. We have vouchers for many of our veterans to get them into permanent housing, where through a program and a partnership with HUD, they can get vouchers to assist them either temporarily or permanently to make sure that they can maintain safe, suitable housing. That's really important. We also have an 800 number that I'd like to pass out or share. That this is through the Department of Veterans Affairs. We have a national call center for homeless veterans, and this is critical. This is staffed 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and the number is 1-877-4AID-VET or 877-424-3838. And day or night, any time of the year, they can call that number, and they will place them in touch with someone from VA that's able to reach out to them. Now, we do have outreach in the community to where through the VA Medical Center, if they can't get to us, we can get to them. We have transportation, we have social workers, we have homeless program stuff to, in most cases, we can get to them immediately and get them off of the street.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Howell, because I see, I work downtown, and every day when I come out of Hyde Park, it's the same people standing there with the sign saying homeless vet. Or I get downtown, there's the same guys down there, homeless vet. I ask him what unit he served with. Of course, he couldn't tell me. I want to say, of course he couldn't, but he couldn't. And I see a lot of these homeless vets. Some of them I just don't. You know, as Cliff just asked a question, day after day after day after day, same people are saying homeless vet. That's not necessary, is it? I mean, we have somewhere we can send if in fact they are homeless. Veteran.
You bring up a great point.
Because it bothers me when I see somebody saying homeless vet, and he's really not a vet. But he's taking advantage of it. He has the sign up, and I see it all the time. What unit? He said unit. I said, what company were you with? Company? Yeah. Who did you serve with? You know. Yeah. And then I saw him one day get up and run to the store like he was 20 years old to turn his change in to get dollar bills. And so there are people that take advantage of this system, but those who really do need assistance can get off the street if they want. You have voucher programs and so forth out here.
Absolutely. We could get them off the street that night and get them somewhere safe and suitable immediately.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, I like that what you're saying because this is very important, and what we should do is to make sure we have the number. So
exactly.
So next time somebody comes up to you, here's the number you can call. Or if you don't
have, you asking me for $1 every day, here's the number.
If I could also mention that Kevin's been involved tremendously working with another segment of an underrepresented population in veterans, and that's those individuals who are incarcerated.
Yeah, that's important.
And Kevin can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mr. Turner. Just before we move on to that real briefly, I did want to give one really important local number as well that is for homeless veterans right here in the Chicago area. It's through Jesse Brown. They have an off-site community resource and referral center. And it's really an impressive hub where not only do we have VA staff, but there's community representatives, so that if we don't necessarily have an ability to get them in immediately, we work with many other partner community organizations in the city to where they can work with them right on the spot. And so I just want to give that local number as well. It's 312-569-5750, and that's the Jesse Brown Community Resource and Referral Center. But to what Mr. Mr. Turner was saying about the incarcerated piece, that's also really important. An additional role I serve in is the justice involved outreach coordinator, and in that perspective, we go into some of the local and state jails and the prisons, and also into the veteran treatment courts. And through that, we try to ensure that not only veterans are informed, but that they don't leave incarceration homeless and penniless. So I partner very closely with our VA Medical Center staff so that we do not only information meetings with them, but we have them complete applications and enrollment forms in advance, so when they leave incarceration, often we can lead them immediately into someplace safe and suitable to stay, and also we can expedite them getting benefits or cash as quickly as possible. That's a role that I do as well. And then in the veteran treatment courts for our veterans, and there are some qualifications involved, but for veterans who have found themselves at issue with the law at any point, if they struggle with mental health or traumatic brain injury, PTSD, substance abuse, there's some amazing veteran treatment court programs that are out there that the primary goal is to get these veterans help to identify and treat as a part of a treatment team that involves many people, treat the underlying causes that resulted in their incarceration or their troubles, and as a result of that, basically it allows them not to be incarcerated, to get the help they need to graduate. We've had so many veterans we've seen that have basically been on the brink of lengthy incarceration, but through this program they've gone on to get
phone number
degrees.
That's great.
So that is more of a local program, or excuse me, a local incident where if a veteran happens to be arrested, they should self-identify themselves as a veteran.
Court. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
we have Veterans
important
Court.
because they can screen them and work
Right.
with them
I was just
and
talking
really
to
try to
somebody
get that.
about that last night, believe it or not, at
Were
that
you?
event.
Okay.
Yeah, Veterans Court.
Yeah,
We're
because
gonna
I'm a
have-
lawyer, and
Yeah.
I would like to.
Yeah, we gotta have somebody.
volunteer for
We're
that.
gonna have that person come in.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
because that'd be great for you. Yeah, volunteers. That would be wonderful.
So
Let's-
are they
let's
doing
go
better
to,
working with women? Are they doing any better working with women in terms of the incarceration and also with the homelessness in terms of like placing them because of their families?
You know, that's a great question, because there's been times where that was sort of an area where really was lacking. We've gotten a lot better, I would say, in that. There's many community shelters and locations that focus primarily on families, especially women who have suffered from abuse or trauma, that are fleeing domestic violence, and that's the reason they're experiencing homelessness, is they cannot continue to be abused. And so there's a lot of local and city organizations out there that do that, but also with VA, we partner with a Safe Haven and other organizations where we actually contract to get them housed and to give them a safe place where them and the women and their children can get treatment and can get housing, can make sure they have food, all of that stuff.
Great. We have a caller, Claude. Hi, you're on WVON 1680, America's Heroes Group.
Hi, how you doing?
Fine, Claude. Go right ahead.
Yeah, and I was wondering, are there any leads out here in California, because homelessness is really high out here. I'm actually a homeless veteran myself.
I think the short answer to that is yes. We do have regional offices and
Sure.
certainly
Yeah.
VA medical centers in California. I'm not sure exactly which area or locale you're from or calling from.
Riverside County area.
Okay.
Yeah, well, listen, VA is across the entire country, so I'm sure they have it there, okay?
And
Thank-
through that 800 number, that
Yeah, that's an 800 number, right.
877-48-VET, you can call that, and they will put you in touch immediately with the closest and the most